Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to RLCS Overtime, your one-stop shop for all things Rocket League and RLCS action. I am your host, Wavepunk, and I got a findable carpet with me here. I got a Lawler here. I got a Leaf here. We got so many cool people here, and we had so much fun this weekend with all of the action that happened here in North America. We're going to get into it as league play ended, ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing? And there's no ladies here. Maybe, unless you got something to tell me.
I mean, ladies and gentlemen aren't here, but they're there. There.
I was addressing it to you guys, and I'm just going to own up to that mistake that I called. Anyways, how'd you feel about the weekend?
I always feel kind of bad because there's situations where we're just excited for every scenario, and a lot of those teams are just terrified the whole day.
Sure.
And we're all just like, let's all be excited and happy, and everyone that's watching is like, yeah. And there's like 5 teams that are just terrified out of their minds and so scared to deal with anything for the rest of the day, and just watching every game so intensely. I bet there's a lot of deodorant that was sold yesterday.
Yeah, they did not smell themselves short for sure. But to get into the action, we start off the day with Denial versus Genesis. Every single one of these games had so much on the line for so many teams as far as who was making it into playoffs. And today we started off the day with Denial getting beaten here by Genesis.
Yeah, like as you said, all these matches super important. I mean, Genesis needed to come in this with a full 3-0 sweep to be able to even just get into the regionals, whereas Denial just needed to win to get that top 2. And that's an intense match.
Yeah. I mean, and Denial, we already know, has struggled so much this season. Just to watch them do almost anything, it's weird. They've been so quiet. Sad Jr. in general was a player that I've always enjoyed watching, and I don't know where he's been all season.
Yeah, he's been one of those players that's been kind of having an issue finding his footing, but he really stepped up. The big one that I need to pay attention to, though, is Insol. For a guy that's been not playing as much, for him to come in and show up and pretty much lead the charge for this team has been unbelievable.
It's absurd. It's not fair to most people that he's put in like 25 hours in the last 2 weeks and he's still carrying this Genesis roster as they win it in 5 games over Denial here. The one kind of two high scoring games we had here. The last game they're going to 5 goals, but immediately after game 4 where it was just the one, like such just craziness all over this match.
Every single game only won by a single goal, except for the final game by 2. So it was very close, kind of trading back and forth. Denial coming so close to getting that reverse sweep. And, we did see them more alive than usual further on in the day.
Absolutely. So Genesis gets the win here, but then Denial moves on to face off against Atelier. Also going to 5 games, Denial gets this one.
The biggest thing for me was between these two teams, and you saw it last series as well, Corrupted G really stepped up. Having 7 goals in the last series and in this series also tying that, and then having a little bit more on top of it. Like, they needed someone on their team, as their defense has just been pretty much the only thing that's keeping them in it. And then for them to actually have some real offense and have it be respected as well is fantastic for them going into the playoffs.
And it had to be frustrating for Atelier, a team that we know has just been at that cusp of just fighting for the top 2, just being in the top 3, top 4 spots, and then Denial, a team that probably came in saying, hey, we're just going to go with this. But as you said, Corrupted G really brought it to his team. I think caught Atelier off guard, and they weren't at their top shape.
No, I mean, Sad Jr. had a couple struggles throughout, I think, the whole season so far. He did start to step it up at the end there, but I mean, let's look at Matt. Let's talk about Matt. He just went off for their team, just both sides of the field. And that's tough. Even when your entire team on Denial is starting to step up, letting your opponents do the same thing.
Not only on the field, but also off the field, getting a couple shout outs for the family.
Yeah,
That's true.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how integrated all of his family members were into the interviews this week. But in the next match, moving on, Atelier, they dropped the series against Denial, but then they bounced back here against Take 3, a squad that we were looking at as to possibly qualify for top 2, had a really rough week here as they dropped both their series.
The week prior, they beat G2 and Genesis. They beat G2 3-1 in a best of 5, which is like, okay, this is it. We're seeing the Take 3. They were the only team that had a chance at both top 2 and being completely eliminated. And they had so much pressure on them. I think it was a lot, especially for a player like Espion.
Yeah, there was something about that break of midseason mayhem. It allowed these guys to kind of just refocus on what was important. And a lot of these teams that were struggling to stay in top 6 altogether just really turned it on.
Yeah,
I think breaks honestly are important to that, and that's why it's great we have them going in the regional finals too, because it gives players just that, you said, that mindset to refresh, get on the field, and try something new.
Yeah, you can see there every game decided by at least 2 goals, and this game was very, very offensive. And Atelier, they get the win here. This finished off their league play, and then given the tiebreakers that happened later on, they end up qualifying for top 2 in North America, getting a bye into the semifinals of the semifinals of the regional qualifiers, which gives them a berth straight into the LAN. So it was really cool to see the way that Atelier shaped up. And I know we all kind of preseason were looking at this team as like a team that was, we don't know what's going to happen. They get put together late in the season, and then they come into this final week as a clear favorite for top 4.
I mean, just talking about the history, I've mentioned this probably 600 times, and I'm going to keep mentioning it. Matt and Sis as a pair alone have more playtime together than probably every single person watching this show right now. Everyone watching does not have the amount of time those 2 players, not just having the game, but playing as a duo together. It's insane. Probably over 1,000 hours just as a pair. Bring in Turtle, who a player that we watched kind of evolve from Vex to Orbit, going all the way through, becoming more of like a filler player to a degree, as in like he got really great at passing. His field awareness became so massive, and they put themselves in an okay spot going in. But as a team, they had to watch the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And some freakish results ended up in them qualifying for LAN. By now, getting the top 2 spots, they must have been out of their minds.
Yeah, it's unbelievable too, because I mean, for the longest time, Gibbs has been saying like, I'm not too certain on Sis, like I'm still worried about it, and it was okay because you saw the ability for someone like Turtle and Matt to really work well together.
Yeah.
They displayed that fantastic this weekend, and then for them to carry that through for a player that's generally methodical in Turtle, where he does slow it down, he checks to see what's open, able to work with a teammate that normally is a different pairing is
I honestly want to kind of like agree with Gribbs. At the beginning, I wasn't a believer myself. I mean, it looked like there was a bit of struggles on the field. I mean, Turtle was constantly having to fill in a lot of spots that his teammates were just kind of breaking up. They weren't really cohesive on the field. They figured it out, which is great and fantastic for them in enough time. But at the beginning, it was that. But it's so cool to see a team really figure out those problems and fix them quickly. You don't have a lot of time in 5 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And it is cool to see how Turtle has shaped into this. He's not the flashy player on any of his rosters, but he is always the team captain, kind of the cohesive glue that's holding everything together there. So great to see him. We'll actually get to talk to him later on today, which will be a lot of fun. But continuing to talk about North America here, Take 3, they got a win over Atelier. That was the only win they would get in this week 5 here as they dropped this series 0-3 to NRG.
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of a comfortable spot for NRG. I mean, they're coming in as one of the favorite teams to be in those top seeds in all of North American League play, and they just needed 1 win to be able to get into that top 2, and that's a pretty good mindset to have going into matches.
I mean, NRG, a team, we've talked about it before, their online play is unmatched. They are 2-time regional champions, which means twice in a row they have been the top North American online team, gone to LAN through that as well.
The best part about that too is they've never gone in as the #1 seed. They've always had some issues towards the end of the season, and then they've managed to find a way to clinch it towards the end. This is going to be the first time that they're actually the #1 going into those regional games and have a chance to really solidify like we're the team you need to beat.
Yeah, you can just see there just massive numbers being put up here by NRG. No one with anything less than double-digit shots. 11 shots from Garrett G was the smallest total here as they get this clean 3-0 victory. I mean, those like that's a shot total you would kind of see like 17 shots from Fireburner. That would usually I could understand if it was a 5-game series. He had 5 games to put up that shots. He had 3 games to put in 17 shots here as they had a 4-0, a 5-1, and then that game 2 was the lowest scoring, but still handily in NRG's favor.
Well, it's 11 goals to 2. Like that's pretty lopsided.
Yeah.
That's feeling good going into another match. That's destruction.
Yeah, you talk about them being the online kings as they moved into their next series against G2 here. It was just the exact same thing. A 3-0 sweep, clean 6-0 win on the day here for NRG as they sweeped G2.
I'm more surprised that they didn't even give G2 room to breathe. Not a single win. It was a 3-0 sweep, and even just a few days prior in a community tournament, they did the same thing. 3-0 swept G2. What are the results of this? What are the reasons for this? There's so many things to take into account. Maybe NRG's playstyle just counters what G2 tries to do. G2's a very calculated team, and NRG loves to break that up.
Well, everybody talks about how ridiculous it is to play against Jacob. When Cobb is on the job, you don't stop him. Like, having to sit and try to figure out what the heck he's going to do, the only person who does it well is probably Fireburner, which stinks for everybody else because he's on the same team. Like, what do you do? Like,
The reason is because he's on the team. They're right there. They've been together. If there's anyone that he's going to be confiding in of what he does, it's Fireburner. But at the same time, like, does it even count at that point? Like, he's not on the receiving end of the Jacob craziness here. And we saw shots that were just upside down from your opponent's box to put them in for the win. And just again, the ridiculous stats. Again, nobody underneath. Everyone with double-digit shots here in this game. Oh my goodness, the NRG is clearly the favorites for winning the third season in a row.
I mean, I want to give a little bit of credit to Firebird too, because I think him being able to switch up what he's doing on the field has allowed Jacob to really shine and show his true potential.
I do want to mention, if these two players ever split up, they're going to be each other's arch nemesis. The moment Jacob has to go against Fireburner, he's screwed.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I feel like, yeah, those two players, the way that they play together is a big part of why they've gone forward. I mean, this the thing is, like, they are back-to-back seasonal or online champions. This season is looking exactly the same, but they don't have Sad Jr. anymore. They have Garrett G now, and they are just as deadly, if not more deadly.
The other thing too, I mean, look at G2. What has happened? We came into this season, these guys started off 4-1 after dropping that game in week 3 or 4, and it's like, okay, now what? What is happening with G2? And this leads perfectly into it. Like, against Genesis, are you serious?
Yeah. This was the deciding game for Atelier to see if they made top 2. We all went into this game saying, if Genesis were to manage to beat G2, Atelier would be the ones to qualify in top 2.
The only thing I could tweet out after this was, lol, what? I did not expect this. I mean, we talked about Genesis having some of those highs and lows. This was definitely one of their highs. Coming to this last one, that's incredible. To be able to you know, maybe give some doubt to some of the people following you, and then all of a sudden take out one of the expected top seeds, G2, is just unbelievable.
I mean, the Genesis ends the season kind of in the inverse style that G2 did. G2 starts out 4-0 and then drops their last 3 series. Genesis comes in and wins their last 3 series against NRG, Denial, and G2. Yes, and that's crazy stuff to see. This squad is the way they're lighting up, as we've been talking about. What is going on with this roster? They look like they're about to implode from the inside, and yet they keep winning.
Yeah, honestly, I think Chrome, honestly, in Classics is one of my favorites from that right now. I mean, Insult kind of makes me mad. The fact that he can be so good with so much less time than I have into this game. But Chrome is so smart on the field. Every decision he makes is just incredible. Classics, a little wavy on his playstyle lately, but it doesn't matter. The rest of his teammates are so incredible right now.
And to talk a little bit on G2, the series prior against NRG, there was a small disconnect issue. Kenobi had lost its internet, and for the first game, it was mostly a 2v3. JNaps and Rizzo really holding it down pretty well, but I mean, what are you going to do against NRG? A man down. You can barely do it with a full roster, let alone a man down.
They were holding it down well, and then the games when the Kenobi came back looked worse than the 2v3 did, which I know, and I think Kronovi said something to this effect already, that like it hit him worse than he thought it was going to. The demoralizing factor of having that be the start of your series in such a crappy situation is not what you want. But still, you are a professional veteran Rocket League player, and this is the sort of stuff that can happen online. These are the rules you agreed to play under, and you have to be able to show up on the day.
I mean, credit has to go then to Rizzo and JNaps for them not only to be 2v3, but also to come back and score and tie it back up to keep them within 1. That's a whole different ballgame. And I mean, idealistically, like when you talk about 2v2 and 3v3, 2v2 like versus 3v3 isn't that much different. As long as you play defensive, you watch for the counterattack, wait for the mistake, and then clear back upfield. It is doable. It's not easy, but you saw like NRG, all they wanted to do was just score a goal as quick as possible. They didn't take full advantage of it, but then when the games really got rolling and they got comfortable, it was nothing you could
play defensive, hold on to the boost, and you should be able to hold off. And they did. JNaps is a beast straight up, and I think it's Gibbs that's mentioned it too. On offense, if you have Rizzo and JNaps, they can get it done. And they were able to choose their play styles coming in 2v3, and when Kronovi comes back in, it kind of mixes it up, and it's really hard to get it all working and glued together again.
Yeah, for sure. And then that wrapped up all the games for league play, which gives us our final standings. 2 teams are out and they're done for season 3. 2 teams have qualified for LAN already. NRG and Atelier, your top 2, and Set to Destroy. We knew already going into this week that they were going to be out, but Take 3 was the team that we were like, oh, we don't know we don't know, is it them or is it Genesis or is it Denial? Take 3 is the team that ends up falling short of the playoffs, and I know Espion was tweeting out afterwards he was absolutely gutted. I mean, they didn't make it.
It's absolutely heart-wrenching to see a team the week prior to beat G2 3-1 and to beat Genesis 3-2, who's the team that just beat G2, and then to not even qualify for the playoffs. And Espion, we've mentioned it time and time again, and I hope he doesn't feel bad that we say it. He doesn't do too well under pressure because he feels the effects of everything he's he's super critical of his own playstyle, which is what makes him so good because he analyzes himself constantly. But that also becomes a fault to a degree.
You know what? It's a good attribute to have, though. I mean, a teammate that cares about what his teammates are feeling as well. Like, to be able to care that much about your teammates, what people are thinking of your play style, and to be so critical. I mean, you kind of need that at top level, but it's so hard to see top 8 teams. These are the best. I mean, the 0-7 tells a different story for that one, but even top 8 teams, someone isn't going to make it, even if you're that close. I mean, EU has the same story going on. So many teams are so close. Someone can't make it to those regionals.
I mean, I feel this way every season at LAN. That like I feel like I empathize more with the losers than I'm celebrating with the winners, because you get to watch all of it happen. You see the players crying backstage, or see the players like really frustrated. You watch teams break up right in front of you after they walk off stage, you know. And it's rough because only one team can walk out and win. And in this situation, Take 3 not able to make it into the playoffs. But congratulations to NRG and Atelier. They will be going to Worlds, and we will have some playoffs. We'll get into that in just a second. We're going to talk about the top 5 plays, though, from this week, as the action, crazy score lines, crazy implications, but still ever exciting Rocket League here. We'll start with Turtle.
Turtle coming in as a strong player. I talk about being a solid third. He just really takes control. We talk about him kind of being that captain role, and I don't know what their comms are like, but I imagine he's almost kind of dictating. But even just being able to have the awareness to get certain passing plays and to keep things up here at 0 seconds, just phenomenal.
Absolutely, the way that they're able to keep that one going. 4 is Chrome.
Yeah, Chrome is, again, I talked about him being such a smart player. He's where he's needed. He's exactly where he's needed to get either passes or keep the play on offense. That's the big thing. When he's at that midfield line, look at that. Beautiful mind game. He just took 3 people out of the play. 3 people.
The 1v3 to get the goal in. Number 3, though, Corrupted G here.
We talked about him all weekend being that offensive presence for Denial, and you see it yet again. One touch after another, and then this ridiculous angle coming off of that wall. He brings it upfield after a touch with his teammate, but then to solidify it, gets the first touch, which makes that defense completely dead in their tracks. But then to see that second shot come in, nobody's ready for it, and that's what made him so special this weekend.
But as we've always been talking about, NRG's big backbone is Jacob, and the nutty things he can do always. Is this the upfield? Yeah, this is the upfield. He's in the blue box and says, I'm going to go up and just flip upside down. There's no camera angle where he can see this goal.
What do you do when your opponents can attack from every angle? They're behind you and putting goals in your net.
Yeah, you're like, oh no, he's not a threat. I can come out of net. No, you really can't. This is Jacob we're talking about. But number 1 play, sticking with Atelier. The other team that qualifies is going to be mad.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him before. 17 saves, I think, in 12 saves in one series. He's everywhere.
Yeah, the way he comes off the wall, just going to push that one back out.
I think this is the second time pulling this off from the back wall. Just look at his recovery. He goes for the first touch, he recovers immediately, jumps off, waits for the second one, and gets another touch to push it into the net. He's got such good awareness.
It's presence of mind, knowing your options. It's not, it got saved, whatever. I can still score this. Knowing those options and then executing is another thing. But it was an incredible display of a lot of skills in that.
Absolutely. So looking forward to the playoffs here. We've got 2 teams who have qualified all the way. They're in the semifinals. They will be going to LAN. They're still playing for that regional prize pool and being playing for to be the number 1 in NA. But there are 4 teams. 2 of these are going to make it. 2 of these are not. Genesis is going to have to play face off. Wow, that's a hard word. Face off against Selfless, and G2 to face off against Denial. Guys, who are our 2 teams who are making it in?
Well, essentially the way it worked is we see whoever made it into top 2 of the league play gets a bye, which is where you kind of get their qualifying for LAN. That's how the situation works. So they're immediately in the top 4. That's where the qualifier for LAN part comes in. That means they only have to play 2 games. They have to play 2 matches to be regional champions, which means they have no stress on them whatsoever. NRG already doing it twice in a row. I mean, what are they supposed to do from here? It's probably just do what they've always done.
Absolutely.
I'm a little bit sad, no pun intended, that my Canadian boys, I honestly don't think they're going to be able to do anything much against G2.
You think they'll drop to G2?
I honestly think so. I think G2, I forget who it was, but they said that Kronovi is Captain Clutch, and I honestly think that's 100% true.
But here's my thing though. Like they start off 4-0, and then they've dropped 3 in a row right now. If G2 were to make it in, I wouldn't be surprised because exactly what you're saying. It's Kronovius, this monster roster. But if they were to drop to Denial, it would not surprise me at this point.
I mean, we talk about it as a thing as in its own. Kronovi factor. When you have a guy at the last second on the line, look what he did at the first World Series. came out of nowhere, carried his team, and got them the win. Like, they're the world champions for that reason in Season 1. So when it comes down to it, like, you have to take that into account. And you know they have downtime. Like, these couple weeks leading up, you know they're going to grind it out and do their best to make sure that they secure that victory.
And we will see. And we can take a look at the prize pool, what these guys are playing for here in the regional championships. $10,000 for first place, dropping to $6,500 for second. But good money. This is all on top of what they are making in league play and what will be put in addition to in the Worlds.
I mean, right now, I imagine money is not what anyone's thinking about at this point. LAN is such a big deal for everyone going from this week forward. You want to get the best seed possible. I mean, you look at the other side of the bracket, you have Selfless and Genesis. Genesis, a team that they can be hit or miss. Sometimes they do phenomenally. And Selfless, I have been pulling for them since day one. I love their roster. I love the way they play. When they didn't qualify for Season 2, part of me died inside because I wanted to watch those guys really bring it to
They pulled the same thing the Genesis did, of starting off like 4-0 and then dropping 3 in a row in the end, or G2 rather, in the end. So Genesis coming up against, and Genesis has been hot here in the end. So who knows what's going to happen there? We want to find out. You guys want to find out. Definitely going to have to watch when we have the regional playoffs, but we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll be talking to Turtle, the team captain from Atelier. It'll be a lot of fun to talk to him. Don't go anywhere. We'll be in a moment.